Salute, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen. We're back for another edition of the Queen's Court. You know how we do it. We go over last week's games, we preview next week's games, and in the middle, we talk about the storylines as they relate to our New York Knicks. Today, we're continuing our preview of the Eastern Conference. We did the Atlantic Division last week. We're going to compare the rosters of the Knicks with those of the Southeast Conference, with the Orlandos, the Atlantas, the Miami, and others, and just talk about how the Knicks roster matches up. Who do we think will win that division series and any individual matchups we're looking forward to? But first, we're going to preview yet again, or give our takes, I should say, yet again on the first two preseason games. Same questions, but whenever you have a different panel, the answers are different and the answers are interesting. So let me bring in Jeff Clafter, panelist, Dope Soul
Mhm.
Sports Talk, Tony Crow, Knicks and Bruises. Fellas, how you doing?
Great.
Peace, Queen. Glad to be here.
All right. All right. Jeff, you good?
I'm good. Salute to you. Salute to Tony. Salute to the chat. Let's get
So
going.
let's get into it. So let me just do a reminder. We played Boston and Minnesota. I'm not sure the scores are important. What happened to Tone? I'm not sure
Uh-oh.
the scores are. Did I do something? Huh.
I'm still here. It's all
I
right.
There
know.
he is.
I it's okay. I
You
gotta I
know.
gotta I gotta step away for a second anyway, and I'll be right back.
Okay. That is very interesting. Okay, sorry, Tone. I'll do when I do it this way. We will figure it out. I'm not sure the scores are important. For me, scores aren't important in the preseason. But we played Boston. We won 114-107. Boston did not play any of their starters. It seemed like they didn't play any of their rotation players. And the leading scorers for the Knicks, if it's important to you, was quickly Barrett, Fournier. The Knicks shot 45.2% from the field, 31% from the three-point line, about 76% from the free throw line. Pritchard, Banton, and McCulloch. I know I didn't get that right. Um,
Sweet.
was Svi, right? Was the leading scorers for Boston. Then we played Minnesota. And I thought that game was a bit more telling. We'll talk about it more. I think in the first half, at least the first quarter, maybe even the first half, it was the Knicks rotation players against um, Minnesota's rotation players. Barrett led us in scoring, followed by McBride, followed by Fournier. I thought the Knicks shot better in that second game, and Reed, Edwards, and Towns was the leading scorer for Minnesota um, in that game. All right, so Jeff, we'll start with you. Your impressions, your overall impressions on the first two preseason games, or anything that stood out for you, or anyone
I,
that
I,
stood out for you.
what stands out to me is really it's RJ Barrett seems like they're really featuring him and trying to get him going and get his confidence at a high level heading into the regular season. I actually really like the aggressiveness that he's showing going to the basket. I just hope that foul rate continues when the games actually count because he's getting to the foul line quite frequently and he's putting them in and that that is really his that is really his forte and if he's doing that, I mean, he's still not shooting the ball great, but you know that's not an expectation of mine. If he's driving the ball, getting to the free throw line, and putting them in, that's a really good sign for New York. I like that a lot. Um, I think Mitchell Robinson has played really, really well. Also, I love the energy that he has, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Um, I'm real pleased with that. I hope that trend continues as we start the regular season. And Evan Fournier is trying to show everybody that he still can play, and which we already knew, and that he wants to crack that rotation, which I don't think is going to happen. But unless there's an injury anyway. But I'm not anti-Fournier. I don't want to make it sound like that. I just think that Tibbs was real successful at the 9-man rotation, and he's really going to have a special reason to break out of that. I mean, Deuce even was making shots against Minnesota, and a Deuce McBride that hits shots is a really difficult player to keep off the floor. That's kind of the dream scenario. You get a guy who can defend like he can defend, and all of a sudden he's a threat on the offensive end and knocking in shots. And it'd be tough to keep him on the bench at that point. But then the other thing that I'll say that I really liked, especially in the Minnesota game, was Dante DiVincenzo. I think he's going to be really good for our second unit. I love his ability to steal the basketball and go coast to coast with it. I think that his presence on the floor, along with guys like Quickly, is really gonna change the dynamic of that second unit and really make it where every year we say we want to play fast, and then the games happen, and then we have maybe first 5 or 6 games we play fast, and then we settle into that normal pace that we have. But I think that it's really early to say, but I really think that DiVincenzo is going to allow us to have a really quick second unit, and I think his defensive on ball defensive ability fits right in with those guys, and it's really going to make that unit exciting, and it's going to pop, and they should be able to get up and down the floor because it doesn't matter who gets the rebound, they can go. And when you have that kind of versatility, I think that it bodes well for playing up tempo. I don't think you're going to see a lot of up tempo from the starters still. I think that pace just determines that they're going to play a little bit slower. But I like that we can change the pace with that second unit and go quick and get some easy buckets and hopefully extend some leads.
You muted, Queen.
Tone, this is the first time I think we've talked. Well, we talked preseason on the last show, leading up to this. Just I reviewed the first 2 games and the stats, individual and shooting stats and what have you. Just what stood out for you, player wise, team wise, rotation wise, coach wise, offense wise, defense wise, anything that stood out over the first 2 preseason games against Boston and Minnesota.
Definitely the biggest standout for me is the comfortability of Isaiah Hartenstein. We saw it at the tail end of last year with the backdoor cuts and being utilized as a passer and a playmaker. But coming into the season last year, we didn't see it, and we didn't really see it until towards the tail end. And now, 2 games out the gate, you see him being utilized almost in a defined role as a playmaker and a passer now. So as he gets more comfortable, for sure, I'm looking forward to that. But that would be the thing that stood out the most. Like, he looks comfortable, hit a 3 last game. You know what I mean? So these are things that we can definitely utilize from Hartenstein. So he's kind of my especially in that second unit, he's my standout player in the second unit.
Can I add something real quick?
Absolutely.
In both games, he put the ball on the floor and took it to the and took it to the rack. I think I saw him do that last year a little bit, but to your point, he looks more comfortable shooting the 3, putting the ball on the floor, passing the ball. But the offense and Tibbs putting him in that position, to do that.
So yeah, I mean, good call, because I mean, not only is he more comfortable, but obviously Tibbs is more comfortable with him doing it. You know what I mean? So that was great to see. And if y'all checked into Knicks and Bruises, it might have sounded like bash Mitch, but Mitch has been dominant. You know what I mean? Like, I like what I've seen from Mitch in these first 2 games. He looks stronger. He looks stronger from the waist down. Pause. but you know what I mean. Like his base looks stronger, which I think will go a long way in his durability. So yeah, I'm gonna shout out the centers in the first
No
two games.
doubt. And to Mitch, and I know Tony, you've said this before. It doesn't matter who gets the defensive rebounds. I just like my centers to get double-digit rebounds. But you're right. It doesn't matter who gets the rebounds as long as we're getting them. That's all that matters. I'm just old-fashioned. I just want my centers to get 10 rebounds. But I saw Mitch getting defensive rebounds in traffic, and I was so excited. You would have thought he hit a three-pointer. I was like, yes, Mitch, that's what I'm talking about. Go in there and get that rebound. So, and he ended up and whenever we used to do the post game, when I used to do the post games here, Tony would be like, and Queen, he had 4 defensive rebounds. So when I looked at the stats, I think he had 9 or 7 rebounds, whatever. But he had more defensive rebounds than offensive rebounds. And we need the offensive rebounds. Don't get me wrong. We do. But I'm just excited that he's just stronger and he's out there. You even see him boxing out. And when he ripped that rebound in traffic, I almost lost my mind. So, yeah, to your point, he looks great. He looks stronger. He's carrying the weight well. Even when he gets an offensive rebound, he's able to like pivot and get into a strong, position to go up with the ball. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Mitch. And when you think of the go ahead.
I just want to say because I just named the two centers, I would be wrong to not include Sims and
Yeah,
and his activity and his growth. So just want to shout out Sims too.
yeah. No doubt about it. I think I'll put it this way, when I think about the center position, as opposed to thinking about Mitch or Hartenstein, and I think about it as a position, to me, it's one of the strongest positions on this team. We could talk about the guards, and it is strong. We could talk about Randall and Brunson. They're strong. Even though they're individuals, they're strong just in terms of their level of play. But I'm super excited about the versatility in that center position. And we saw it against Miami. Any concerns I have about Mitch, man, clogging the key and making it hard for the drivers, Tibbs have the option, and he did it in the Miami series, of switching it out, bringing in Hartenstein, not the elite rim protector that Mitchell Robinson is, but he's not gonna hurt you on the boards defensively, and he's gonna get you some second chance opportunity. He's not gonna put him back though, but he's gonna pass him out. He's gonna give the team some second chance opportunity. So a fall off in defense, a little bit, a fall off in offensive rebounds a little bit, but an increase in the offense and the spacing and making it difficult for those other teams to now use his Mitch guy to roam and double team and do things. So I'm really excited about them individually, but more so them together. Um, anything else that
That
I just
chase
want to
down block that he had on Cat, that
yes,
was that was
Right.
that was
nice.
out of nowhere because he didn't even look like he was in the screen. Next thing you know, he just flies into the screen and blocks the shot.
Mitch was like, I hear the rumors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And I just want to shout out McBride a little bit, and not necessarily the shooting, him handling the ball and running the team. It was just good to really see him out there. Usually when he's out there, he plays off the ball. And to see him out there running the team, and I'm not saying he was perfect, but he did have some good looks. He did set some guys up for some good looks, you know, um, running the team. And if that shot is falling, that changes, that changes. I don't expect him to shoot 100%,
Hey, I was gonna
but
say, last game he was perfect. Queen, he was perfect last game.
so I like what I'm seeing from him. But let me ask the two of you about that shooting guard position. I don't think it's not a battle. I think, Tibbs has basically said it's Grimes' position. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my view of it is he's just he just fits with that starting unit. It may not be about who he is individually as much as it is about how he fits. You got three high usage guys, not a lot of shots to go around. Just having somebody out there that can knock down the three off of those guys that can defend the perimeter and doesn't command the ball like a quickly would. And I'm not averse to quickly starting either, but he doesn't command the ball like a quickly commands the ball. And shout out to the chat. You guys make me smarter too. I think I was doing the morning show and somebody brought that up. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. I can understand that for Mitch, right? It took me some time,
Hmm.
but I was able to be like, okay, for what this team needs, I get it. Mitch fits for how this roster is constructed. And that fan in the chat helped me understand that for the way that starting lineup is constructed, Grimes is probably the best um, choice that we have. So, talk to me a little bit about Grimes. Do you agree that he's the best? Um, Sorry about that. That he's the best option in that starting lineup. Just your thoughts on all of the shooting guards on the team,
Tony.
all 12 of
Oh.
them.
Hey, I'd rather it be guards than power forwards.
Mhm.
So um I do agree with that. I think I've stated that before, in the sense that if you bring in a quickly into the starting lineup, if you bring in a DiVincenzo into the starting lineup, they have to sacrifice more of their game in that starting lineup. You know what I mean? Where as a Grimes, eh, even with Grimes the way he is, we're still asking for him to kind of be a bit more aggressive. You know what I mean? Do a couple more things when those opportunities arise. So for the fit purpose, 100%, because you can ask Grimes for more in that starting unit. You know what I mean? Where these other guys, you're asking them to do less. You know what I mean? Then
Right.
I
That's a
think,
good point.
you know what I mean. Like now they got to sacrifice something. You know what
Mhm.
I mean. So I think it fits. He fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And
Chat.
I, I'm just thinking of that first possession in the Minnesota game where they got the ball and then Julius makes that pass and then Grimes does a quick move to the basket for the easy dunk. You know that I really like to see that aggressiveness out of Grimes, and I think Queen, your point is so astute, and I think it actually works both ways because I actually think that not that Quickly's not a capable starter, but I just think that for what our second unit needs, Quickly and
Right.
DiVincenzo fill
Woo.
those things better, and
Right.
so I think that all three of those guys kind of fill in the gaps best in those particular spots, and then you have the flexibility. Whoever's got the hot hand, that's the person who should close. If Grimes has it going that night, then let Grimes play at the finish. If it's Quickly, then it's Quickly. If it's DiVincenzo, it's DiVincenzo. If it's Hart, it's Hart. I don't really mind that, or RJ Barrett for that matter. I mean, I think he'll be more of a three, but if any one of them, I, to me, it's not as much positional with this group. It's kind of like we have our wings and our bigs, and
Right.
so
Right.
and our wings are all on the smallish side. So, but all of those guys are 2.5s in my opinion. They can go either way, and I guess Quickly is more of a 1.5 than a 2.5. But I mean, you can
Right.
all those other guys you can pretty much slot at the 2 or the 3 and feel really comfortable. I mean, we're going to be playing small ball uh, a little bit just by design because we don't
Yeah.
have that
Sure.
prototypical 6'7" wing that we all clamor for, who can defend and shoot and do all of those things. But um, yeah, I like Grimes in the starting lineup. I think the advanced numbers back up the fact that that starting unit is really good. And so if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. Keep now if it comes out and the numbers, don't maintain and continue like they did last year, then make adjustments. And I think that's kind of what you'll see in the first 20 games of the season, kind of like he did last year. He
Right.
tried something out and he didn't feel like it was really working. And so he said, okay, I'm scrapping that and I'm going to go with this other. And then the other worked like gangbusters. And so there's no guarantee that just because it worked last year means it's going to work this year. I mean, there could
Right.
be different player combinations as he sees it, as we see it, that are more useful and more effective, and we may have to go with that. But at first, stick to the stuff and that stuff's been working. And we were a really good team with that starting five out there. So I'm more than comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think my only caveat, and every time we talk about Grimes, I say the same thing. I need some ball handling. I just feel like Brunson is just on an island. And you know what? Maybe the coaching staff wants it that way. Like maybe they want Brunson bringing it up every single possession against the best perimeter defender on the other team. Maybe that's what they want. Because when we was playing Minnesota, they had Anthony Edwards on him. Then they took Anthony Edwards, they put in the kill Alexander Walk. I said, this guy, and this is going to be all season,
Mm-hmm.
is going to have to work to get the ball up because he's not fast. He's not quick. So he's going to have to work to get the ball up the court against longer, stronger, defenders. And then it's taking shot off. I mean, seconds off of, could potentially take seconds off of the clock, depending on how difficult it is for him to get it up there. So I don't like it. I like a backcourt where any one of those guys can bring it up. Let Brunson rest a little bit on some possessions.
For
Bring
me,
it up. Mhm.
for me, Queen, the reason I didn't mention Josh Hart, because I do think if anybody would fit in replace of Grimes, it would be Hart. Because similarly, he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be like at his best, at his peak. And to your point, he is a guy that could get the ball off the rebound, bring the ball up the court, one man fast break. Like you don't want him breaking down the defense in
Right,
the
right, right,
in the half court. But if you're
right,
talking about full court, you know what I mean, get the ball and bring it up and make a play that way. Absolutely. The problem with that is again, when you put him in that starting unit, you're taking we're talking about him playing backup four at points. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So now you're taking that option away. You know what I mean? And now Grimes is having to play up already. You know what I mean? Like
right,
so it just takes too much away from the defense, I think. But I do think he's the only guy that I would argue could fit into that
right.
starting unit, and it
But
may even fit better.
the only thing with Josh Hart is he's not a sniper. Well, I don't know if we got any snipers on the team. He's not a really he shot lights out for us when he came over. I think he shot like 33, 30 something percent in Portland. But when he came to us, he shot 52% from three. I don't anticipate that continuing. I don't know if he's that catch and shoot guy off of Randall, Brunson, and RJ. I think DiVincenzo, who not career wise, but last year shot close to 40%, might be the better option. But to Jeff's point, Tibbs will figure it out. If he's finding that Brunson is wearing down and is taking time off the clock and whatever, maybe he'll make that change. I think Quick and Grimes in the backcourt is okay, but not as explosive potentially as IQ and DiVincenzo because both of those guys could play on or off the ball. And I still see Grimes still in that second unit, still playing off the ball and not dribble. I don't
And
understand what it is with
that's
Grimes and this dribble.
that's the big thing. You may still be asking for Grimes to be more aggressive and assertive in that second unit. If you're gonna, you know what I mean. So if anything, you rather him in that first unit where it's not a necessity. You know what I mean
Right.
because he has so many playmakers around him. I mean, he still have playmakers in that second unit, but I rather him in that first unit. You know what I mean? Have a lot of the plays given to you as
Right.
opposed to in the second unit
Having to
where
create, having to create.
I,
And go ahead, Joe.
I think additionally what you said is really accurate because and I think that the impetus behind it is, remember, the Knicks had a formula last year for their offense to be really good, and a big part of that formula was low turnovers.
Yeah.
Well, Jalen Brunson is a low turnover player. You know,
Yeah.
he'll have that one at the worst possible time, but for the most part, he's a really low turnover player. So even if he's having to do that by himself, I think Thibodeau trusts that he's going to
Yeah.
take care of the ball, and he's going to get it to the front court where we're going to get an offensive possession. Whereas the more people you have handling it, the more passing that you have, the more of those things that you have, the more risk that you have of a turnover. It's like Daryl Royal said in football: three things can happen when you pass the ball, and two of them are bad. You know, and so
Right.
and the game has certainly evolved since those times. But my point is the same, that he wants it very controlled. He wants it where the ball is in the hands of someone he can trust, and even if that means extra workload on Brunson, I think he's okay with that, because I think that he feels like the cut down on turnovers, and the extra possessions. Because remember, we play a possession game. You know, with the offensive rebounding, the low percentage, high volume shooting. Low turnovers. That's our formula for blueprint for success right now with this squad. And so if that's going to continue, then I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of Grimes being the secondary ball handler this year, unless he's just really taken a step up that we haven't seen yet, which is entirely possible. I'm not going to sell the kid short, but especially at first, I would be really surprised if we saw a whole lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my concern. I think the other thing to understand about me when I'm giving my takes is, if I'm giving my take just focused on this season, it's very different than if I'm giving a take focused on the Knicks evolving into championship contention. It's too, because if I'm just looking at this team this year, Grimes is the best option so far out of what I've seen. Now Dante DiVincenzo can show me something, to Jeff's point, as we as we go along. But this team, as presently constructed in that starting lineup with those high usage guys, Grimes is the best option. But when I'm
eh,
thinking about, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I thought you were done.
When I'm thinking about the Knicks as championship, potentially being championship contenders in the next year or two, I feel like we need to upgrade at the two position. I just feel like Grimes right now is just not ready, and it may take another year or two for him to be a starting shooting guard on a championship contending team. Now the Knicks are not there yet, so it's not an issue. But for the Knicks to get into championship contention, you have to have a two guard that you can rely on. Now he could turn everything around this season and become a Buddy Hield with defense. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, the Knicks are a step closer. I just feel like Grimes is not quite ready for prime time. He's the best we have on this team, but in a perfect world, there would be a vet in front of him, and then he can come along at his own. Still get his 20 minutes or 20 whatever he's getting, but getting it off the bench in a perfect world for a championship contending team. However, we're not there yet. This is where we are. And for this team right now, it's Grimes. And shout out to whoever it was, I forget his name, who made that point yesterday when or whatever day I did the morning show. Go
Sunday.
ahead, Tony. You was gonna say something? Sunday.
I like that you said Buddy Hills with defense, because the knock on Buddy Hills, besides defense, I mean, is that he lacks, putting the ball on the floor. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think that was like a good offensive comparison. Um What I was gonna say on the flip side, just like yes, we all agree that Grimes fits the best. The beautiful thing is we can flip. You know what I mean? Any one of those guys are capable. Quickly,
Right.
I think Dante, I think Hart, I think any one of those guys are capable of filling the role, and it not necessarily taking anything away from the starting unit. You know what I mean? I think the real question is how does it affect the second unit making
Yes,
those changes?
that's a good point. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Your thoughts on Josh Hart in that second position, in the excuse me, backup power forward position. I didn't get a chance to look at any stats. I don't even know where to look. Like there's a place where you can find stats where when so and so the number of possessions that this player was guarding that player, the player only shot a certain percentage. I'm not sure where to get those stats from. I would love to. If somebody knows where to get it, please let me know. I'm becoming a little stat head as of late, slowly but surely, and I'm actually loving it. I didn't like Hart at the power. When I saw Hart got in Towns, I said, "Thank goodness Towns is just shooting threes tonight." He was towering over him. I was like, "My goodness!" But that's what it's going to be. And when we'll go over the rosters as well, you'll see these backup power forwards are not small guys. Your thoughts on how you thought over the first two? Well, he only played one game. Hart did as the backup power forward.
Mm. I don't think I saw the second game in its entirety
Okay.
to specify what position Josh was playing when you know what I mean when he was on the floor at different times. I seen him play, but I didn't break it down as like, oh, these are his backup 4 minutes. So
Right.
I couldn't break it down like that. But to your point about when you saw him guarding Carl Anthony Towns, I agree. We're gonna see this is exactly what we're gonna see throughout the year. Now, the to me, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but to me, the adjustment is Sims and Sims actually at the 5 and Hartenstein at the 4 because it's going to be I don't want to say a time period, but it's going to be certain games, certain teams that really have the personnel to just shoot over like whoever is playing that backup 4 position. So unless we have some size there against certain teams, I mean that's the adjustment that we're gonna have to make for me. It's not gonna be about he can't guard this guy. It's gonna be about he's not tall enough to block the shot or mess the shot up. You know what I mean? Guys are just too big. So I think Josh can fill in spot, but
Hmm.
it's we're gonna need other guys to step up in spots as well.
Including RJ. I'm interested why Thibodeau he'll automatically go to Josh Hart. Oh, I can see Josh Hart playing the 4. Oh, he can do it. But he never says RJ Barrett, who's thicker, just as strong and a little taller. I don't
I
know.
think part of it is because we have so much guard depth, and he has to find the minutes for him. So if his logic is I'm trying to keep either RJ Brunson or Randall on the floor with the second unit at all times, one of those three, but I'm not trying to jeopardize the minutes of quickly and DiVincenzo. The only adjustment is putting Hart at the 4. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess it could be RJ at the 4, Hart at the 3, whatever.
Right.
But I also think he wants to limit those two guys' minutes together as well, RJ and Hart.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. I think he kind of did the math on it.
I also
Okay.
think defensive rebounding is a big part of that equation. Josh Hart is an excellent rebound. I mean, Barrett, to be clear, is not a bad rebounder for his position, but Hart is an outstanding rebounder for his position. And so I think he's a little bit more comfortable with Hart getting in there and getting those 50-50 balls and getting those rebounds as opposed to Barrett. And I'm not as, maybe I'm foolish, but I'm not nearly as concerned, with the size, and I don't think the preseason's really given us even a sample size to look at yet, because
Yeah.
Julius Randle's minutes were so minimized. And so, if you've got someone like Karl Anthony Towns out there, I think you're going to see a lot more Julius Randle. I think that's going to be the answer to that. And so, you're only talking about a few minutes in a game, and while it does present problems on one end of the floor, there's also mismatches on the other end of the floor, because Karl Anthony Towns has to chase around Josh Hart. That's not a good thing for the Minnesota defense, and so you have mismatches you can exploit both ways. And Hart is strong, and he's a good rebounder for his position. And again, I don't think it's going to be for a ton of minutes. So, and it may be one of those things where I'm completely off base, and the stats show, and the when the games are live, that we're just getting killed. But it's like Tony said, if Tibbs sees that, he'll just put someone bigger in there, whether that be, playing a Sims Hartenstein lineup,
Mhm.
and there are some size, but are these really the guys that are going to kill you? These fours, these backup fours, is that like really like they're gonna dominate and kill a defense? I mean, I
We'll
don't
see.
know. I'll have to look at the names, but it's just off the top of my head, I don't really see that, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That 20-25 game mark will give us a good indication on a lot of things. Um, Particularly our defense. Our defense actually looks good. Um, you know, you couldn't tell with Minnesota in terms of the final score, I should say. But that fourth quarter was, yeah. Um, I wouldn't say garbage time, but non-rotation players was in the fourth quarter. I think the Knicks, they finished 19th. I think the Knicks are gonna finish at least in the top half defensively, which would be like 15 or better. Yeah, I think the defense will be better from the start. Because remember, we started with, you know, I don't know how many games. How many games was it before we went to that 9-man rotation?
23.
Our defense was terror at 23. So, yeah. So I anticipate our defense being better.
And I
Anything
think
else?
that 19 is a little deceiving also, Queen, because I think if you look between 19 and 11, I think it's like 1 point per 100 possessions or something like that. So it's
Okay.
in other words, there's not a massive gap there between 10th, 11th place and 19th. Again, if I'm wrong, correct me by all means. But I remember, I think it was the Macri. I saw that on his show one
Yeah.
time late last year, saying that the difference between 11th place defensively and 19th place was not very much. And we weren't very good defensively for a good portion of that first
That's correct.
stretch of the season.
20,
So
23 games.
for those first 23 games. So after that, where are we at? How does that, if you're talking about the margins being very slim between 11 and 19, like those 20 bad games can make a huge difference in where you end up,
And I do think our defensive rating was definitely better once we went to the 9-man rotation.
And
It
our
it
defense was
wasn't
good in the
19.
playoffs.
We were number 2 in the playoffs. We
I
were
think
ranked
that's a
number 2 in
little
the
skewed because we were playing Miami and Cleveland. So I'm not sure we were number two good, but because I don't. Some teams are more offensive juggernauts than others, and I'm not sure that Miami and Cleveland were those. Not to take away from what the Knicks did, I'm just saying that I'm not sure that we were the second best defense in the playoffs. I'm just saying that we were much better. We were a very good defensive team in the playoffs, even if we're not as good as that number two rating.
I don't know, Jeff, because when you look at what Miami scored against everybody else in the playoffs and what they scored against us, I mean, I agree with you. They're not an offensive juggernaut, but they were doing their thing, against these other teams. And the Knicks, these were like 1990s games. Um,
Yeah,
I
they
think
were.
the Knicks held them under 100 um, in every game, if I'm not mistaken. Which when you're looking at Miami in the regular season, that's not saying a lot. But when you look at how they were playing in the regular season prior to them playing us and after playing us, I don't know. It's just, well, put it this way: it's good to know the Knicks can turn it up a little in the playoffs, even if it's good to see that they can turn it up a little. All right. Before anything else, before we get to previewing the Southwest Division. All right. So we did this last week, and it's pretty much the same. Tone, we got to try to figure out why you don't come. We did this last week, and it was no problem.
It's all right. Just let me know when you when.
We'll do it like this.
That
We'll do it.
just do it on top. That works better.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's. Um. Oh, I should have switched this around depending based on finish, but this is good and this is good enough. So we got the Knicks in the middle, and we got Atlanta. I got these starters off of this depth chart off of ESPN. I guess different wherever you got your depth chart, it might be a little different. But the issue is this is the roster of players, even if it's not in the right particular, the right spots for us to take a look at. So let's start with Atlanta. Potentially starting Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, Sadiq Bey, and Clint Capella, with Mills, Bogdanovich, AJ Griffin, Johnson, Okongwu coming off the bench, the rookie Kobe Buffkin, Wes Matthews. I'm saying situational, you know? So just your thoughts on their roster compared to ours, and who do you think would win the division? The division. We're so homers. Like the Knicks are gonna win. I'm telling everybody in the chat now. The Knicks are gonna win every division series that we go over this week and next week. And the most that's going to happen is it's going to be tied. I don't think any of us are going to say that the Knicks are going to lose any division series. Let's see. Let's see. Thoughts on Atlanta, Tony, and then Jeff?
Um, if I go just head to head as far as these guys, the only matchup where I feel like we don't win is Murray versus Grimes. Like that's the only question as far as do we win for me. But I feel like go all the way across the board, we should be able to win all of these matchups. Give or take one or two here and there. So yeah, will we play them 3 times, 4 times? Either way, you right. We we gonna win the matchup 2-1, 2-1.
Do you see Young and Brunson and Capella and Mitchell Robinson potentially being a wash?
Yes, 100%. So that's what I should have said. It's either equal or we winning. You know what I mean? So yeah, at this point, I'm giving Robinson the edge. He usually plays well against Capella, especially the last 2 years. Um, yeah, I think Hunter would actually guard Randall, and Bay would guard RJ. At least if I was Atlanta, I would feel more comfortable with that. But I think Randall's too strong for Bay, and I think RJ has the advantage over Hunter.
I wouldn't sleep on Hunter defensively though. Um, he's a pretty good defender. Offensively, he's more of a scorer. You're not going to get a lot of like other stats from him. But he's a pretty good defender. And somebody in the chat made a good point. Grimes will probably be matched up on Young, and
Mm,
Atlanta, I'm pretty sure, is going to put DeJounte Murray on Brunson.
that's a good point too.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to the chat, always adding something to what we doing. Appreciate you. What about the bench? I happen to think, and we haven't gone through every bench, but I just happen to think that our bench is super strong, and I don't think I'm being a homer. Thoughts, Jeff, actually, and any thoughts on the bench as well?
I actually like how we match up against Atlanta. I don't think they have any answer for Julius Randle. And this isn't the playoffs of a couple years ago where they can just, load up on Randle and dare anybody else to beat us because we'll beat them. I don't really, I'm not a huge fan of how Young and Murray, I mean, on paper, you would think it would be really good, but they both really need the ball in their hands to be effective. And so I don't think I don't think they complement each other necessarily in the starting lineup. And so I think they kind of have to take turns. And you know, I don't know that that's as effective in the long run. Patty Mills is a good player, and Bogdanovich is too. But I really like our bench.
Mm,
Um, and I think I just think we're a stronger, better team than Atlanta. I'll be surprised if we struggle with the Hawks.
yeah, yeah. And I think they're counting on some second year play. Well, last year we counted on some second year players too, and AJ Griffin and and Johnson. I agree. I think the Knicks should win the season series. But this is what I'll say going through this Eastern Conference. It's going to be a dogfight. Yeah. This is not going to be easy. Trey Young, DeJounte Murray, Hunter, Bay, Capella. Like this is not. You're not going to just show up. You're going to have to play. You're going to have to play. And if the Knicks come and they play the way they're capable of playing, they win this series. No doubt about it. But you can't just show up. You know. All right. Anything else on Atlanta before we move? Any matchups, particular matchups I know you mentioned RJ Barrett and Hunter, Tony Crow. Any matchups you're looking forward to or not really? In the first
Honestly,
or second unit?
honestly, if Bay was on RJ Barrett, I would really like that matchup. I think that would be a nice challenge. Not saying that like me personally, if I'm the Atlanta, I just would be more comfortable with Hunter guarding Randall and trying to stop
Right.
Randall,
Yes.
like you know what I mean, and Bay guarding Brunson.
Right.
For me, it's a challenge for them. It's not like an easy task
Right.
either way for RJ or for Randall or you know what I mean or the defensive assignments. So those, I guess, those four, whichever way they line up, I think that it's competitive. It's competitive.
Yeah. 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 No doubt about it. Let's move on. Anything else before we move on to Miami? All right. So I don't know if Lowry I don't know. To me, it would seem like Lowry would come off the bench at this point in his career. But anyway, this is how they had it in ESPN. Lowry, Hero, Josh Richardson is back with Miami. Butler, Bam. And on the bench, I have Hero, twice because he'll probably also be the backup point guard as well. Duncan Robinson, Khalid Martin, Kevin Love, and they got Thomas Bryant. I think, what did he play with? The Lakers. Then he moved to another team last season, if I'm not mistaken, but Thomas Bryant is there. Jovic, who I have situational, may very well be in the rotation. I know they were talking about him in summer league, so he very well may be in the rotation. Duncan Robinson has been in and out of the rotation, so he very well may be situational. Just your thoughts on how we match up against Miami, the season series, and if there's any matchup you're looking forward to. We'll start with you, Jeff, this time.
Well, anytime you got a Coach Spoelstra team, you have to be concerned. Miami's going to bring it. They're smart, and we need to keep all of our players away from Bam Adebayo, especially with our ankles. Uh, but I, I I I like the matchup. I think there'll be entertaining games that'll be slugfest, just like they were in the playoffs. Um, but we won the regular season against them last year. I mean, we're a good basketball team, and I agree with you that there's no easy games in the Eastern Conference, but that's what Coach Thibodeau preaches. I mean, that's the daily grind and bringing your hard hat every day and not taking any nights off. That's why we have Coach Tibbs here.
Mhm.
So from that standpoint, I'm encouraged. I would really like to see Mitch do a better job against Bam this year, but with I think
Right.
healthy Julius Randle is the difference maker. I don't think I don't think he was close to 100% health wise, and I think he made it worse on himself. It kind of the injury and not being able to do what he wants to do kind of paralyzed him. I think in a way that was detrimental. So hopefully that goes away and we get you know. Because if Bam has to guard Randall, that I think Randall can win that matchup uh, every time. I really do. I'm a big believer in Julius's offense, and to me the key is I really think that Brunson is the best player on the floor. With no disrespect meant to Jimmy Butler, but I really like Brunson in that matchup against Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry, he'll be physical. And that's the thing with Brunson. He's gonna see different defenders on different nights, physical ones, long ones, tall, he'll have to figure it out. The thing with Lowry is how much is the officials gonna let him get away with,
Mm.
Amen. Yeah, that's true.
you know? Tony?
To your point about Larry starting, I feel like he if he's healthy, he's gonna start at least to start the season. The funny thing is, I feel like that might be the starting lineup to start the season. You don't know what that lineup is going to look like come 20 games in. Similar to Tibbs, they're going to be evaluated in segments. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if somebody's not getting it done, do not be surprised if not only Jovic but the other rookie or Triple J, they high on that kid too.
Right. Yeah, they
So
are. They
you,
are.
you know what I mean? So don't be surprised if they end up being in the rotation and two guys fall out of it. So like Martin, granted he got injured, but he also fell out the rotation early in the season too, and happened to find himself in the playoffs. They're a dangerous team, but I think we sweep them this year. I feel like
Wow.
I feel like Brunson's gonna they don't have an answer for Brunson at all. I think that was proven in the playoffs. I feel like Randall's gonna have a chip on his shoulder in this series and something to prove. Granted, does it prove anything? No, because it's not the playoffs. But that's not gonna stop that mentality of I wasn't there for my team the way I should have been or could have been.
Right.
Had I been healthy. I agree with you that Mitchell Robinson this is his test. He needs to show something against Bam.
Right.
Um, so the same way there's buzz about Jared Allen towards Mitchell Robinson, I feel like it should be the same energy for Mitchell Robinson towards Bam because he made him shrink. You know what I mean? So I feel like Mitch is gonna have something to prove. I feel like the Knicks are just gonna have something to prove against them, chip on his shoulder. Um, the Heat aren't gonna be that. They're not gonna care about it. It's just another game for them. You know what I mean? So I feel like we're gonna come out every time and try to beat them bad.
Yeah. And the thing about Miami, it almost doesn't even matter what their roster is. They always find somebody off the heap that
Mhm.
comes in and contributes to them. And listen, they still have Jimmy Butler, they still have Bam, and Tyler Hero didn't even play in the playoffs. So they lost Strauss or Struess and Gabe Vincent, but they get Tyler Hero back as well. So I like the Knicks, particularly when you look at the bench. I'm really high. I'm really high on our bench. You know, Josh Hart and Kevin Love, Josh Hart and Joe Johnson. As Jeff said, he ain't afraid of them, even though he's giving they're giving up. He's giving up inches. Um, yeah, I think if we play them 4 times, I see it tied 2-2. Um, if we play them 3 times, of course the Knicks are gonna win 2-1.
I
All
also
right.
think I also think if we play them earlier in the season, it's two out of our advantage. If it's like last year and we got like 3 games at the end of the season against them, it is to their advantage in my opinion, because I think they're gonna have to, like I said, those rookies, those young guys, they may very well find themselves on this team and find a role, and you know what I mean. But Miami's gonna take time to figure it all out. You know what I mean? They're not gonna come out the gate and be a top team, in my opinion.
Right, right. Take
That's
some
usually
time
how they
to
do.
gel. Yeah, yeah. They usually toward the end of the season they start rounding into shape. Anything else on Atlanta and Miami before we move on?
I just want to say Kevin Love is actually one of the problem children. I think that is actually a player that the Knicks will have to worry about because Love is just a nightmare for us. He just, I mean, he's smart. He can rebound. He's stretch forward, can shoot the three. I think that is actually one of the players. There aren't many out there, but I would list him under as one of the ones who would be a quote unquote problem child. I think that the Heat games may be 44-minute nights for Julius. Let's just put it that way. I don't think there's going to be a lot of Josh Hart minutes at the four during those games. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, yeah. You might be right. All right, let's move on to Charlotte and Washington. So with Charlotte, LaMelo Ball is back. Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Mark Williams. Mark Williams was a rookie last year. He's starting now. Hayward, when I saw the preseason game, Brad Miller, is it Brad?
Brandon,
Brandon Miller, the rookie, was starting because Hayward was out for rest. I think it was. I could see him taking over the starting spot probably by game 20. He looked really good. He's not
Hayward's only
he
going to
doesn't
play 20-25 games anyway. So
anyway, right, right. This rookie didn't look phased. He went down, he yammed it on I forgot who it was, a shot blocking center. He didn't get all hyped or nothing. He just turned around and went to the foul line like, this is how I handle my business. Like, I'm like, look at this kid, you know? But in their second unit, Nick Smith Jr., not Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know who this Nick, I think it is. Smith Jr. C. Martin, the brother of Caleb Martin, JT Thor, who they drafted either last year or the year before, and Nick Richards. I have Miles Bridges, who's also on the team situational because there's a whole warrant thing. So I'm not sure what's going on um, with them. But just your thoughts on Charlotte with LaMelo Ball back and, compared to our roster. Um,
here's the thing. It's gonna be weird because if I don't know how many times we play him. If we play him four times, it's gonna be 2-2. If we play him 3 times, they're gonna win 2-1.
you think
This is
so?
Yeah, they scare me Like I feel like they're gonna be the Orlando team that kind of had our number. Um, in years past, I feel like um, yeah, just they're gonna be one of them teams that kind of just has our number. I feel like we don't match up well against. Now I'm just throwing that out there because I didn't want to be the homer because I would normally be like we'll beat them, but they got, especially, I mean, if Miles Bridges gets his act together, he's dangerous and plays well against us. Um, Terry Rozier is another dangerous guy. Hayward, he has his moments. You know what I mean. A lot of the times it is against us. Martin is like a Robinson clone. You know what I mean, if you will. Um, Randall's. I mean, when I go head to head, it's hard to say that they're gonna beat us or have our number because I feel
Mhm.
like if I just go head to head, we're better. But I just feel like they're one of them young athletic teams that might maybe the Knicks overlook, and so I'll say they're the ones that either 2-2 or 2-1 them going
Yeah,
against the grain.
right. And they're coached by Clifford, which is Thibodeau's brother. So they're just similar in terms of how they approach the game, in terms of defense and rebounding and and things of that sort. Jeff, your thoughts on Charlotte?
I just look at their bench versus ours, and I just think that it's not even close. I, I kind of agree with Tony from the fact that Rozier is always a Nick killer, and if it's a game at the Garden, you're going to get balls best, for
Right.
sure. So from that standpoint, but Gordon Hayward, is he even going to be healthy? He hardly ever plays, and then who do they have at the backup as a rookie? I mean, I know you said he played well, and I mean, I don't know. I just I think I don't see a lot there. Randall's much better than PJ Washington, and Mitch should be able to take care of business in that matchup too. I just think from a talent perspective right now, our talent dwarfs Charlotte's just looking at their lineup, but you still have to play the games. And as you said, sometimes when you play a team that's kind of a mirror image of you, it gives you problems. So, it could be that Tony is right on that, but I think that it. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's a series that the Knicks should win.
Yeah, and let's not forget Frank Ntilikina is on that team too, and
Oh,
he got some minutes at least in that preseason game. But it's hard to figure out where rotations are going to be from a preseason game. Um, so yeah, I mean, I I like Lamelo. I like their guards. Put it that way. I like their guards. PJ Washington. I like his versatility, but he's not a good rebounder. Mark Williams is really tall, but he's not a bouncy type. He's not somebody that's like gonna go up real quick, snatch the rebound. If he misses, he's a quick jumper. He's not that um, you know, type of guy just yet from what I seen watching him. So I think the Knicks win this series. However, because of Clifford, I don't think you can just look at the rosters and be like, "Oh, this is a gimme." The Knicks are gonna have to earn it, but I think they will. I think they'll be prepared. He's like a Thibodeau clone, they'll be prepared. They know what the Knicks like to do. They're gonna try to take it away. Um, but yeah. And as far as a matchup I'm looking forward to, I don't know. I don't know if there's even a matchup I'm looking forward to.
Brunson and Ball is intriguing to me. Those two are going to go at each other.
I don't know if they're gonna play each other though. Don't you think they're gonna have Rozier on Brunson and Grimes on Ball?
Maybe so, maybe not from a matchup perspective, but I just
Oh,
think
I
that's
see.
intriguing that those two, elite point guards like that. To have them, even if they're not, responsible for each other defensively all the time.
Right.
my matchup is definitely Brandon Miller against Randall. Whenever we see them two head to head or face up against each other, because to your point, I don't think Brandon or I don't think Miller's gonna fear Randall. You know what I mean? So he's, you know what I mean, and he could stretch the floor. So Randall got to guard him, keep his eye on him. So that would be the matchup I would like
He's
to
a
see.
rookie though. You don't think Randall gonna handle
Oh
his
no, no,
business?
or on a. I'm not worried about Miller's defense against Randall. I'm just saying offensively, he's gonna go after Randall just the same way Randall's gonna try to,
Oh,
you know
I
what I
see.
mean, go after him. So like Randall can't slack on defense because he's a rookie. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like he's gonna attack him. So
right,
I would like to see that matchup. Randall will win it easy, but I want
right.
to see it. You know, them young kids without fear. You know what I mean, I like to see that. Maybe it brings the best out of Randall.
Yeah, yeah. I think in terms of Rozier and Brunson, but this is for everybody that we play. I'm really interested in how teams are going to play Brunson now. He got a lot of attention last season, don't get me wrong. He's going to get even more attention this season, and I'm really interested in how he handles it. He may struggle out the gate. One thing about Brunson, he's real cerebral, but put it this, he may struggle the first few possessions. I don't think it takes him even a whole game to figure it out. It takes him like maybe a few possessions to figure it, to figure it out. Actually, but yeah. So each game, I'm just looking forward to see how Brunson handles the different defenders that's going to be thrown at him
At
again.
at worst, Queen, it'll take him a half,
A half.
as we've seen last year have a bad half and then
Mhm.
come out second half. And what I'm concerned more with, and hopefully you're right, and it does take less than you know what I mean, a couple possessions, is if he has a good start to a game,
Mm,
and then they adjust, and he has to figure it out in the second half. I'm not concerned if he has a bad first half. You know what I mean? I'll be more concerned with having that good first half, and then the teams adjust, and now you gotta figure out these things.
yeah, and I think the better the rest of the team is, the more it's going to, the less of a problem it's going to be, right? The less of a problem it's going to be. Yeah. Um. All right, let's move on. Anything else on Charlotte before we move to Washington? All right, Tyrus Jones. He played for Memphis last season. Jordan Poole. I got three Pools, a lot of O for offense in there. Jordan Poole, who came from the Golden State. Avija still there. Kuzma, who actually played well for them, and he played well against us last season. Daniel Gafford will now be starting with Porzingis in Boston. DeLon Wright, I like him, especially from a fantasy perspective. Corey Kispert, the rookie Kulabali, I think. Gallinari is back. He played in the preseason. Gibson, and then they got Baldwin Jr., who was a rookie with Golden State. Davis. You know what? These rookies, when we do all of this work for the draft with these guys, and then they don't even come off the bench during their rookie season. The argument, Johnny Davis,
Queen,
oh, he this.
Queen, how mad have we been these past couple of drafts though? You know what I mean? When we trading away our picks, you know what I mean?
Right, right,
We not
right.
drafting nobody. But then when you look at the guys that we had on our boards, and it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, they're not even playing. But let me tell you, Tony, you hit it on the head with Jalen Williams a few years ago. I was like, Jalen Williams, he's not even on any of the draft boards. Every week he kept it moving up, moving up, moving up. And now, my goodness. Yeah, OKC is
And shout out to you because you didn't see it at first, but then you was like, Tone, he might not be available for us.
right. I was
You
like,
know what I mean? And sure enough, he got picked before we picked it. Well,
yeah,
before our pick was, so
yeah.
he wouldn't have been on the board.
He wouldn't have been on the board. Listen, OKC hitting on their draft picks, just hitting it out the park on their draft picks. You know?
Somebody in that front office is gonna get a nice job after this.
Yeah. And that's the difference in team building. Like people always get on the Knicks. The Knicks did the exact same thing. Lost and went to the lottery. They just didn't pick the right players. You know, the Knicks is not doing anything different than these other teams except not drafting well.
What? Not this regime. Not this regime.
Not this
Previous regimes.
previous
Because
regimes.
we've been hitting on late lottery. I mean, late picks and everything.
Yes.
I mean, from so
Yeah, but those early picks, like when I think about, well, Obi was
Stephen
this. Oh,
Knox,
it's only been
Reggie
Obi,
Jackson.
right? Because Nilakina was prior,
mm,
Knox was prior. Okay,
technically,
okay,
Mitch was prior. So I mean,
Mitch
we
was
hit with
prior.
Grimes. We hit with Quickly.
Yeah,
Um, we gave up on the ones that we didn't feel confident in. You know what I mean? Trading picks away, and then I guess our only
Obi
blemishes
is a
would be
miss.
Obi and Keels. You know what I mean? Because
kills don't even count. Kills don't even
Oh,
count.
man.
I mean, I'm counting it because it felt like a favor. I mean, even when we drafted him, we was like, "Yo, we got time to let this guy grow." G League, it was no expectation. You know what I mean? So
And he lived up to that no expectation too. Let me tell you.
Yes, he did. Um, Thoughts on Washington? You know, roster comparison, division comparison, any matchups. Listen, we're not going to get their draft pick. We're not getting their draft pick because they don't look like they're going to be good at all. But you got to
Just
play the
be
game,
careful the Taj Gibson revenge game. That's all.
right?
I mean,
Right.
I don't think they're gonna be good against us, but but they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be better than projected.
You think
I
so?
I like Jones as a point guard. Like you talk about Brunson and low turnovers. Like you know, what I mean, he's one of those guys too. It's really gonna be to me. It's really gonna be about Poole and how does he adjust. Like to me, their biggest question mark is who's the leader. If they could find a leader and everybody's okay with this guy's the lead, even if it's Jones saying we're gonna lead through the point guard, and he's you know what I mean, he don't gotta be the leading scorer. I'm just saying the leader on the team. To me, that's their
Right.
biggest question mark. Um, because I feel like it could come down to does Poole want to be that guy, and does Kuz want to be that guy, or
Right.
can they find a common ground.
Right.
So you know what I mean. So that's why I said if Jones is the leader and these two guys just do what they do, score the basketball, they could be dangerous. If it becomes a battle, an internal battle, they could be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure, Jeff.
I just don't see where the consistent scoring is going to come from. I mean, Kuzma can score and Poole can score, but are they? How efficient are they? Um, I just think that's Washington team's going to struggle because the Eastern Conference is so good, and you know they talk about the Knicks and a lack of stars. Well, that roster, I
Mhm.
mean, you know, it's as vanilla, plain Jane as it gets. I mean, not any player that's just like, oh, I want to have that guy, you know. And then I'm not. Poole is not a bad player, and Gafford's an okay five, but he's not going to carry a team anywhere. And I've never been the biggest Kuzma fan. I know he had a big game or two against us, but and I agree with Tony that Jones is a solid point guard, but that's just not enough talent on that team to do anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like Kuzma though. He gave it to us, boy. When we went to Washington both times.
He was auditioning. He was hoping he was like, I want to
Um,
show
one
him.
one thing I'll add about this team though, And another reason why they could be dangerous, they could shoot themselves out the gym, but if those guys like all across the board, they all could shoot. Um, from Poole to Jones to Avia, to CRISPR to I think Gafford could pull the three. So like they could be one of those live by the three, die by the three. So if they shoot the ball well, they could rock probably rock with anybody.
Yeah, on any given night. Yeah, yeah. But I see it. I see the Knicks. I think Washington will get one game only because it's just hard to beat a team every game in a series. Not impossible, but I say they get one.
I'm going
It,
sweep. They all
you gonna
home
sweep?
games.
Okay. They are. Or no.
No, I mean even in DC, it's a home game.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Anything else on them before we move to the last team? All right, let's go to Orlando. Fultz, Gary Harris, Wagner, Bancaro, Wendell Carter Jr. Off the bench, Carl Anthony, Suggs, Ingles, who came over from, was it Phoenix? Got where Ingles
He
came
was
over
in
from.
Utah. I don't know if he
Was
was
it
where he was
Utah?
last year.
Utah, and then he was hurt all year, right?
Okay,
They
I
traded
believe
him
so.
hurt.
I don't know if he played for Utah last year or not. I just remember him from Utah.
Yeah, but I think he missed the whole year. Like if so, it might have been Utah to Orlando, but he was out the like. Didn't he
So
like tears Achilles or it was
I
like a
think
big
you may be
injury.
right on that.
Yeah. Um, Jonathan Isaac, who's healthy for now, and Wagner, and Wagner, the
The
brother,
Wagner
Franz.
brothers.
Yeah.
Woo.
Is that Anthony Black? A Black, the rookie. Okiki, who's been with them for a few years, and but Todzi, who played for Indiana last season, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken, a big guy who's situational. Listen, this is the team. I know Tony, you say it's Charlotte. This is the team for me that I'm not afraid of them, but they're balanced. And they're balanced in the bench as well. Bancaro's taking the league. I love Wagner. And I've been watching Orlando. Fultz is looking pretty good. He got that jump shot is right. So again, it's not like I feel like they're gonna. The Knicks should win. The Knicks should win. But for me, this is a 2-2 series. And if the Knicks lose any series, it would be this one, in my opinion. It would be this one. But I'll say 2-2.
I didn't realize Orlando was in this division.
Mhm.
Had I known that, I would have stuck. I would have said everything I said for Charlotte. Like, notice when I said Charlotte, I'm like they could be the Orlando of last year
Right,
because
right, right.
Orlando gave us trouble. So I thought we would get to Orlando in a different division for some reason. So I'm gonna flip flop and everything I said for Charlotte. Like this team, they. I'm not gonna say they have our number, but they compete every single time. Um, they're gonna have growing pains, but yeah, they just stylistically they give us a problem.
Yeah, and I love Wendell Carter Jr. He's a bit undersized, but he's a tough rebounder, and he hits the three. So Mitchell Robinson is going to be out. He's going to pull Mitchell Robinson out from under the basket. You have to guard him out there.
And both Wagners are good. Like don't sleep on Mo.
Right, right. I'm not sure he'll be in the rotation, but when somebody was hurt and they put him in, I was like, look at this guy. He played well. So you're right. You're right. He's a solid, he's a good player. Jeff, your thoughts on.
Well, you want to talk about matchups that I'm looking forward to? Randall and Boncaro. I
Yes.
am a I have an irrational love for Paulo Banquero's game.
Yeah.
That dude can flat out ball, and he's coming into his own, and he's going to be up against an All NBA performer like Randall. I think that's going to be a war. And
Yeah.
if and I don't I'm not as confident about Fultz as you are, Queen. But if
Mhm.
his jump shot is fixed, then like you say, that's the missing ingredient with that team. If
Right.
they get quality point guard play all season long, they are going to be a playoff team. The Wagner brothers are awesome. I just don't think there's a weakness in that starting lineup. And Harris always gives us fits. Like
Yeah. Now, when
Harris
I
could
saw
shoot
them,
1 for 24 3 games in a row, and he's gonna come to the Knicks game and he's gonna be 11 for 13 and all of them threes.
yes, Kevin Bergen, welcome first. We did the we're doing the entire Eastern Conference. So last week we did the Atlantic Division. This week we're doing the Southeast Division, and next week we're going to do the Central Division with Milwaukee in it. Yeah. If Jonathan Isaac is, let me tell you, if we could take a flyer on, like, just give 2 second-round picks for Jonathan Isaacs just to see, if he can become who everybody thought he could become. But Jeff, what I wanted to say was Gary Harris was out the game I watched, and Suggs was starting, and he looked okay. He looked okay, but Fultz looked good. That jump shot off the dribble was just money. He's looking
If
good.
that's back,
So
he's dangerous.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Is going to be a fun matchup throughout the series. I'm really looking to see this matchup because it's not just that Barrett and Wagner, Robinson and Wendell, Carter Jr. Can Carter Jr. keep Mitchell Robinson off the boards? No, he's undersized. So this is like two centers with different games. Like, how is Robinson going to defend him out on the perimeter? How's Wendell Carter Jr. keeping Robinson off the board? So I'm looking forward to that. Anthony and Quickly, two guys
Mm-hmm.
that can light it up. If either one of them get hot, they could take over a game, right? So yeah, I'm
Advantage quickly because he got defense. So
mhm,
all you got to do, you don't got to stop Cole, just slow him down and then do
right,
what you do offensively.
right, right. I don't think Anthony is a slouch though, but he's not on Quickly's level defensively.
He likes to play
And
at the Garden though too. Cole Anthony does.
yeah, he does.
He come to MSG
Yes.
and he want to put on a show because he thinks the Knicks should have drafted him, and he don't forget. Nobody
Right,
forgets when the Knicks don't draft it. You notice that? Like the
right.
Knicks pass on a player, and they'll torment us forever.
Yeah. And I think Ingles will help them. I think Ingles, that's a nice addition for them. But
He's
if
a shooter.
Isaac, yeah, if Isaac is healthy,
They
defensively, I'm
should
not even
too.
talking about offensively. I'm just talking about defensively, just in terms of guarding, blocking shots, and rebounding. What you were gonna say, Jeff?
I think it's good. They're a deep team. I think they're going to be really good. I think that's a team that is definitely on the rise. They're young, they're hungry, and really they got off to such an awful start last year. But after like the first 20 games of the year, they were over 500 ball club for
They
the
were.
last 60 games of the year. So they figured it out, and once they did, and I don't think they're going to get off to a slow start this year. I think they're going to be solid from Jump Street, and I think that's a team that could win like between 40 and 45 games, and
Ooh.
definitely at least in the play-in
Hey,
conversation.
I
That
just
eight.
hope we ain't no 3-6 matchup in the first round.
Yeah, I don't want to see that either, Tony. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of intriguing matchups in this. Do we play them pretty early in the season? No, I think it's Charlotte we play pretty early um in the season. All right. Anything before we move on to previewing, just giving our quick thoughts on the two upcoming preseason games. Anything else about any of the teams in the Southeast Division?
Nah,
No?
Atlantic
All right.
Division is the toughest. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Tuesday we play Boston again. Boston, maybe they'll play their players this time around. I'm not sure. We play them the next week. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure um what this game is going to be like. And then it's a back to back. We play Washington. So whichever starters play against Boston, I'm not sure they play even at all against Washington. But anything you're looking to see in these next two preseason games, offensively, defensively, rotation wise, from a particular player, anything this upcoming week?
Um, well, it's gonna be interesting to one if you're talking about if the Celtics play their guys. Excuse me, but if Randall plays because he said he wasn't gonna be playing in both of games in the back to back, and then Tibbs said he was ending the preseason with you know what I mean, what would be his rotation. So I would
Mm,
assume Randall's gonna miss this game and not the last game.
okay.
But I would have preferred this the Celtic game be the last game so we could see their guys, they could see our guys get a true test. Um so I guess my biggest thing would be if Randall sits, who starts at the four, and how
Ooh,
does that impact the second unit? You know what I mean? And I would assume at that point we do see a lot more of Sims, whether it's starting or the second unit. I don't know, but we can't have Randall out and then not utilize. I mean, like that's gonna impact our depth a lot. You know what I mean? We already talking about backup four, but if he got to sit again, good thing it's preseason. But so that's I mean, right now that's the most intriguing thing I'm looking forward to. Does he play? Does he play both? You know what I mean? And just maybe limit the minutes, or and like you said, do they play their starters? I want to see teams rev it up. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Rev it
yeah.
up towards the end, and then obviously last game, full roster, everybody. What's that rotation in the last game? You know what I mean? Because that should be a testament of what Tibbs has figured out so far.
Right. Jeff?
Yeah, I actually think you might see against Boston a lot of Nathan Knight and Isaiah Roby if Randall's not going to go, and that's not something we would see probably in the regular season.
Mhm.
But I could definitely see them. Those are guys who are fighting for roster spots, and so I could definitely see being heavy on those two guys, especially if the plan is, as Tony said, is to rest at Randall and only play him against Washington, which I'm fine with. Uh, to me, there's a lot of cat and mouse going on. I don't think either one of the Knicks or Celtics really want to show their hand until opening night, and so I would expect that game may be another glorified scrimmage like we had the last time, which is disappointing. But from you want to see the best players play, but you know that'll get here soon enough. I always want to beat Boston because I hate them. So whatever happens, whoever we play, I hope we blow them out. And then and then the Washington game will be the last kind of tune up. I think you'll see at least in the first half, you'll see a lot of you know the guys we're going to see opening night, and I'm really curious to see how that goes. And if that's the case, then it's really be interesting to see what the rotations are and how the group looks in that final game, and what units are playing together, and who he puts out there to close and those sorts of things. But
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to see Nathan Knight and Roby in one of these games. I would like to see more Toppin. I was about to say Obi Toppin, Jacob Toppin. I would like to see him. I always thought the Knicks would do well with a player who could play 3 or 4. An energy guy, just an energy guy. Play good defense, rip rebounds, deflections. If you hit a shot, great. you know. But I would like to see more of Toppin, and I'd like to see more of our draft pick. What's his name?
Jalen Martin.
Yes, I would like to see more of Jalen Martin, and I want to see them for big stretches of time. So I don't know if that's going to be against Boston. I don't know if that's going to be against Washington.
I mean, it makes sense that we would see all of these guys as a final, like for Tibbs to look at them and get that final evaluation, especially if he wants everything set by the last game, by the
Right,
Washington game. So it may,
right,
like you said, we may see Nathan Knight, we may see Toppin, we may see Wilder, whatever, you know what I mean? We may see all these guys just so he can figure out, all right, who's making the cuts, who's making, you know what I mean, who's gonna be the two-way guys, who, I mean, because that could all flip flop depending
right,
on what he sees and what he's been seeing.
right. Anything you're looking to see from any of the rotation players, or you've seen enough over the first two games?
I don't know. I kind of want to see just a continuation of what we've seen. I want to see Barrett continue to go to the hole strong and draw contact and get to the free throw line. I want to continue to see Mitchell Robinson be really active defensively and crashing the boards really hard, especially on the defensive end. Um, so from that perspective, I want to see if Josh Hart is healthy and we can get some quality minutes out of him. Uh, and I really put very little stock in preseason games, though. To me, it's just stay healthy. That's all I really care about. I just want all of our guys ready to go when we roll the ball out against the Celtics on the 24th. That's really my biggest concern. All the rest of it is just, I mean, especially with this team, I think that the 9-man rotation is pretty much set. The 3 or 4 guys after that is pretty much set. So, if you're talking about the margins, you're talking about guys who probably aren't going to play at all anyway. I mean, we struggle to find minutes for guys like Fournier and McBride and Sims. Like, what are we doing with these other guys? I mean, they're just there to keep the bench from flying up. You know what I mean? So, um, that from that standpoint, it's important for them, obviously, because if you get that spot, there's a lot more money than if you don't. But from an actual team impact perspective, I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
I don't think it makes a lot of difference. I agree with you for this season, but I want the Knicks to continue to fill in the back end of that roster. For just get them in your system, even if they don't get in the game, just have them in your system. That's what Miami does. That's what a lot of teams do. And if there's a trade, if somebody's in, they're already in your system, you just move them. You just move them up. So that's the only reason why I want to see Toppin. I would like Toppin to make this roster. I just like
I
what
would
I
too.
see from him. And I would like, well, he's already on the roster, right? The Martin Jalen, or is he?
I don't know if it's two-way or a guaranteed contract, but or a non-guaranteed contract, but one way or the other, he's on the team. I think
Yeah,
he's one of the safe guys. You know what
right.
I mean? So it's really a matter of, it does it stay two-way or does it convert to
Got you.
um on the team?
Yeah. Those two guys just have some young potential on the back end. To me, they have more potential than Keels. Just have some guys back there.
Or
So
already or, or
already.
jump, bro.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, as far as them making the team, I don't think it's gonna happen. I would have liked to have seen more of Nathan Knight. From what I understand, what people have told me and what I've read, he's decent, as far as having somebody on your bench in the case of an injury or something, and he has NBA experience. I just want to see him. It's he's not going to be in the rotation, but if you're not playing guys, let him play. Let him play.
As far as the rotational guys, especially if a Randall sits, maybe a RJ sits, I think Brunson won't sit. I actually think he'll get what he had like 14 minutes, 7 and 14. I think he'll hit the 20-minute mark next
Mhm,
game, and then game four it'll be regular minutes,
mhm.
28, 30, whatever. Um, but Grimes, I want to see if if any of our starters sit, can you elevate your level with an elevated role?
Mm,
So be
mm.
it a preseason game, whatever. But
Right.
can you show some of these things you've been working on, or some with this with more opportunity? So I guess Grimes would be the rotational guy that I would want to see, especially if guys sit out.
Yeah. I want to see more of DiVincenzo. I'm not very familiar with him. And he hasn't played with any of these guys. So he has the most adjustment to make. He didn't shoot well that first game, but I liked what I saw from him defensively.
Defensively.
That second, like those steals, and I'm like, oh, a steal, because the Knicks,
The
we
Knicks
got a
don't
good
do that.
and,
steals team, right. I was like, oh, we got a steal, we got two.
and it's
Um,
not like a like deflection pass steal. This is center court, mid court where you
yeah,
guarding. Yeah, you know what I mean.
yep,
Those are the
yep,
best. Like that's when you could really see the defense did that. You know what I mean. It wasn't just like,
mhm,
oh, I put my hand out and oh, I got the opportunity. No, he took
right,
it.
He
right,
got around the
and,
screen and just swiped the ball away from a starting point guard and went the other way and flushed it.
right, right, and Freezy mentioned this on the show this morning. The way he navigates screens, does a really good job navigating screens. And when he got screened off, he stayed in the play and got the block, got the block from behind, falling on the floor, getting dirty, So I like what I see from him. I want to see more. Maybe he gets more time if we sit players.
That's a Villanova trait, by the way.
Yeah, right, right,
Hart,
Yeah.
Hart does the you know what I mean. He gets over the screen that same way, and Brunson to an extent.
yeah, and getting on the, getting just whatever the team needs. I think they might still be getting calls from Jay Wright after the game if they don't fall on the floor after a loose ball. Oh man, and we haven't talked about this though. Salute Johnny Davis, Paris Duggar. We haven't talked about this. Quickly to me seems a little out of sorts. Might be too strong, but I thought he was in a really good groove second half of last season in terms of when do I run the team, when do I go for my shot, just a general out there, like he had it down pat. Now I see him, he seems just a little more just just kind of like just dribbling all around, not necessarily running the team. Now this could be also, it's preseason. DiVincenzo, he's in the backcourt now with DiVincenzo. Maybe he's also trying to find his way. Somebody in the chat, not here, but during the morning show said, the contract could be on his mind. I don't
That's
know.
where that's where
Have
I
you
was going.
seen him, or you guys you've seen something different?
I agree that I've noticed it, but I don't think it's been a detriment. You know what I mean? Like, so he's still. I feel like he figures it out by the end of the game, and to me that's encouraging. You know what I mean? Like, because he's had moments like that last year. So you know what
Yes.
I mean. Maybe it's not the contract. Oh,
Right, right,
yeah.
right, right.
I mean, I was gonna say the way to fix it is probably just give him that extension, and then you know what I mean,
Let him
clear his
settle
mind.
down, right?
Yeah, but I feel like even with me noticing that, I feel like by the end of the games, he's back to who he is. So it's not that concerning right now. But I definitely noticed, like I was expecting him hit the ground running. You know what I mean,
Yes, me too.
from the jump. But to your point, it is preseason. You know what I mean, and to my point, I feel like he has figured it out as the game went on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean. So
I'm not worried. I'm not worried, but I just noticed that, like, what's up? What's up? We quick.
And it could be our expectation. You know what I mean? Like just
It's
like
true,
yo,
true.
it-
Especially coming off, because you're right. Coming off that playoff performance, I like, oh my God, quickly he gonna start on fire, you know, and he still might, and he still might.
I gotta think that contract is in the back of his mind a little bit. I think that's a little bit unsettling. I think he wants to know where that's, and I think we'll know by this time next week. I mean, that's the thing. The 23rd is the deadline, and I honestly think something's going to get done. I'll be surprised if they don't lock him up uh, with a contract, but by this time next week, I don't think it's going to happen like tomorrow or anything. I think it'll kind of push to the midnight hour.
yep.
Kind of get close to the deadline of the 23rd. But I think something happens then, and I think they lock him in. And I think once he has that security and that certainty, I think it's going to be better for him because we've talked about this before, but you sign that extension and it's kind of like a no trade clause for the season. And it's like,
Right.
all right, I know I'm going to be here. I don't have to worry about am I getting replaced by the DiVincenzo character, because he did see them ship off Obi, as his best friend for a little bit of nothing. So, you know, these are people too. We always just,
Right.
it's easy to say the right things as well. It's a business and, but you know people have emotions and bonds and ties and stuff like that, and sometimes that stuff is not as easy to shrug off or as it may seem, and something about the human condition, we always want to feel valued, right? And I
Right.
think that if the Knicks step up with a sizable contract extension, that's going to show him that he's valued to the organization. um, Even if he's not necessarily a starter. They're showing him, if you're paying him like a starter, you're showing him value, you're showing him that he's important to the future of the organization. Then I think that will, help his mentals a little bit, because right now it's got to be a little bit up in the air for him, am I going to get the extension? Am I not going to get the extension? And if he's going to go into restricted free agency, then it's like, well, is my long term future here? I want to be a starter. All of those things, come into mind, and is he going to be able to lock in and focus the way that he needs to, or the way that we want him to, and I think he will. I think all of that, like I said, I think probably by this time next week, I think all of that will be resolved. And if he does have that contract extension, I think that kind of uh, settles him down and locks him in come opening night.
But he answered it, but I forgot to add that to my buy-on segment. So believe it or not, quickly, I mean Queen does quickly get extended before the season.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think the Knicks are keeping their options open as far as trade. He's not making a lot though. He's not making a lot, so they can't just trade him by himself. I think the Knicks are keeping their options open. I'm gonna say no, but I'm like 50-50. Like it could happen. Like I could very well see them, you know, signing him, keeping him for the year,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now you have that salary. If you want to make a trade, you have a $20 million or whatever they're gonna pay him. So I'm 50-50, Tone. Could go
That
either way.
that that's where I mean, I'm gonna say yes. I think they do. I think they do. Um, but I understand it. If they don't, it's really just to keep the options open, like you said.
See,
And
I would be surprised if they don't, for this simple fact. You you see guys like Brock Aller and Leon Rose, and they're really big into cost control, right?
Mhm.
And so if you right now they can kind of with their negotiation control that number, right? But if you go to restricted free agency,
Someone
you
else
know,
is controlling it.
someone could offer him a huge contract to be, that's more than you're willing or wanting to pay, and then you're in a tough spot because then it's like, well, we don't want to lose this guy for nothing, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we're not comfortable paying him this number, and so I think that just from my perspective of what I've seen from this front office is they really like to have that cost control. And the better way to do that, in my opinion, is to ink him to a number, get that salary slot in there. And I don't think they think that contract is going to be difficult to move come the off season if they need to.
Quickly has to
So
agree to that though.
And that's
And
the
that
other
could be
part. It takes
and
two
that could
sides.
be the rub right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that they're offering an extension before the season starts. No doubt in my mind. The question is are the numbers agreeable for quickly? That
I'll
like
tell
that
you what, though. I understand where you're coming from, but if you offer him $100 million over 5 years, that's a lot of money to turn down. I'm just saying,
If they're
for,
offering
for
that,
this, I don't know what they're offering, but I could see that
well
being.
what if he I mean the talks has been he wants 100 for 4. So if they offer 100 for 5 but he wants 100 for 4, he may decline that
and bet on
100 for
himself.
and bet on himself. Now, when I'll say this, I would be I wouldn't be mad at um 100 like 115 for 5. You know what I mean? Because now you can give him what he wants. You know what I mean? And then kind of incentive base it. Like you know how they maneuver.
Right.
Declining salary, whatever way you want to finagle it. Team option on that 5th year. Like so, I think there's ways to get him to the number that he wants, and then but you have to do it with that 5th year and kind of like do what they do. I have no doubt that they'll give him a good offer. It's really about him betting on himself or him accepting the security, because that's the big thing. Security is when the players, you know what I mean, like I don't gotta
Right.
worry about injury, I don't gotta worry about nothing. I'm secure for 4 or 5 years, and then so
I
it's gonna
also
be
wonder,
tough.
is this the best environment to be able to bet on yourself when you may not be getting the minutes per game to really show and prove the way that you possibly can? Because we've talked about this before. You know, we all kind of think they're all going to be in the 25-minute per game range. Is that really enough for him to have the type of season where he pops, where he's going to get that contract that's going to say to people, yeah, I want to, I want to give them that big time money deal. I mean,
That's a good point.
That's a good
and
point because
especially when it's right there in front of you. And I can other teams offer him a 5th year? Or I thought that was just a Knicks thing, that we were the
No,
only ones who could offer him 5.
they
no,
changed some CBAs. No,
as a restricted free agent, I believe it's 4. If it's a sign and trade, it could ultimately be 5, because that's another incentive that we could use to negotiate a sign and trade if he does find that team that wants him as a restricted free agent. We can negotiate. All right, well, let's work out some type of sign and trade so we don't lose him for nothing, and incentivize him because he could get that 5th year.
right. And just another factor to add some context to the betting on yourself. You didn't start last season well. Then you had a really good stretch. Then you didn't play well in the playoffs. You're
Then you got
betting on
hurt in the
yourself.
playoffs.
And you got hurt in the playoffs. And you're betting on yourself. If you don't have a good season, it's only that the only thing you got working for you is that second half of last season, right? If you don't have a good year this year, so you can lose money as well in restricted free agency, depending on how he plays this season.
Yeah, I think it was Dennis Schroeder that turned down a
84,
really big 84 something
4 year,
million
84.
dollar contract betting on himself, and that didn't work out well for him. So yeah, you know that's what I'm
If we
saying.
get Quickley for 84 million, oh
Hey,
my
hey,
god.
you know who bet on themselves and it worked out beautifully?
Who's that?
Jalen Brunson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Oh,
And he doubled up on him. He said, I'll sign 4 years for 50 if you give it to me right now. And
right.
and they hesitated and he got 100. So you know what I mean? Like
Right. That's true.
it's both. You know what I mean? It's both sides. He was willing to take the 50. You know what I mean? So it's that's why I agree that
Yeah.
security means something. You know what I'm saying? Like think
Because
about
he'll have
that.
another contract.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll get another contract. Yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
so that's why I think if they offer it, which I think they will, it'll be good enough that he can't really turn it down without it being a risk. You know what I
Right.
mean? You gotta make it risky for him. Like,
Right. That's true. That's true. All right, let me just get to this before we get out of here. Oh man. Oh, there you go. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so you'll be notified anytime we go live here on the Nothing But Knicks channel. That includes the Queen's Court, of course, the controversy with Josh, the Losers Lounge with Tony Crow, right here of Knicks and Bruises, anything international Andy may put out, the NBA wrap up with Ron from Still Nick Fans. Love that concept. By the way, pregame, postgame, the shoot around, events, videos, whatever is put out by the creator of this channel, Simeon Russell. And if you like the way I host the show, I have my own channel, Dope Soul Sports Talk, is right there in front of you. I didn't put it in the I didn't put it in the chat. I forget about these things sometimes. Y'all know my condition. But Dope Soul Sports Talk, I go live every Thursday night with the panel, including Jeff, who's here, Ajay, Jarrell, Boogie stops by sometimes, Delusional, and every morning after the Knicks play, because I need my sleep. I'm getting old. I'm up there. I can't be. Tony is young. He's a young guy. He could sit up here after the game to 11 and 12 and 1 o'clock talking to Knicks. I can't do it. So the next morning after the Knicks play, after I get my sleep around 9 o'clock, I come on with the morning show. So subscribe to the channel, Dope Soul Sports. Hit that notification button and join me every morning after the Knicks play at 9 o'clock for the morning recap. The Knicks morning drive. I'm not drive, vibe. Knicks morning vibe recap show. Any last words, fellas, before we get out of here?
um, appreciate the shout out, man.
Of
Appreciate being
course.
being on the show. I gotta get on Dope Soul more often.
Yes.
We're
You
gonna
got it.
figure it out. We're gonna figure it out.
Yes.
Even if we do something on a different day, just you know what I mean,
Yes.
just for some, you know what I mean,
Tony, we
side
got to
contact.
do a collaboration. We have to do a
Yes,
collaboration.
yes.
The way Freezy and I did it, it was every other week. We'll get back. I mean, it's the season now because it was too much, but it was every other week on each other's channel. Something.
Okay,
We'll figure it
we'll,
out.
we'll figure something out for sure. Um, Knicks and Bruises did an episode earlier. If you missed it, just go check that out. Some good. We
That
did
was really
believe it or not, and we just talked about all these different rumors and hot takes that's been going around, and whether you believe it, whether you're not. So that's it. Appreciate you, Queen.
yeah, definitely. Jeff, any last words? Or you said it already and I
Salute to the
forgot.
chat. Salute to the
Okay.
queen, Tony. It's always a pleasure to be on with you guys. It's an honor to be up here with y'all. I learn something every time I'm up here, so I appreciate y'all and let I can't wait. We're a week away from this season fixing to start, y'all.
Yes, yes. And I think we Saturday we're doing the season kickoff at Legends, right? So those who
Yes.
live in the New York City area, October 21st, Saturday, what is 7 or 7:30? I'm not what time is it starting? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out if I could get there, but
Right.
um I mean, let's say 7:30. So to be safe, I'm sure Sim will have another announcement, but it'll be on for. I mean, it'll be going on for a couple hours. So 7:30. You know what I mean? Even if you late, you there.
Right.
I
Legends
wish
right
I could
across the
travel
street.
by map. I know that.
Right. Legends is right across the street. Legends NYC right across the street from the Empire State Building. This is your opportunity to meet your podcasters.
No,
I'll
from
be
the
there.
garden.
No, Legends from the Empire State Building. It's on Fifth Avenue.
Wait. I'm sorry. This is not where we always go on
Yeah.
33rd.
Yeah.
Empire State
33rd and
Building
5th.
there.
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
my
I
bad.
know. I didn't let me tell you. It wasn't until I was looked up and I said, "Oh, this is the Empire State Building." So yeah, yeah, true, it's true. I was like,
My
"Oh, this is
bad.
the Empire State 33rd and 33rd and 5th."
Yes, that is.
Legend, yeah, NYC. Meet your favorite podcasters. Will be back there, if I'm not mistaken. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. For opening night, October 25th, we're gonna do a viewing party to watch the Knicks, and then November 1st, I think the tickets are sold out. I don't know. I know at one point he said he had 3 left, might be sold out by now. We'll be in the building for the New York Knicks versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Woo-hoo.
Gonna be fire.
Gonna be fire. Until next time, family. Appreciate you.